Hello students, welcome to Laex. Welcome to the 64th weekly magazine where we'll be covering from 14th May to 20th May 2018. So let's quickly see what are the important issues in this particular week. Yes. So the first important issue is with respect to social, especially related to gender, where we are trying to see that under 5, if we take, we are aware that female feticide usually occur, correct? There are more deaths because before the child is born, people are trying to identify and then they are killing it, right? Abortion is occurring before the child is born. So this missing children that we usually talk is already known, and you know the reasons for that as well. But the new study tried to show that when we talk about the infant mortality rate, within the infant mortality rate as well, if we see the number of deaths of girl children are more, and the main reason for this is neglect. Because of the government measures, what is happening, right? There is no scope in few areas to identify whether it is male or female. Now, as there is no scope, once the child is born, the parents are neglecting that particular child. So, we call them as unwanted children, and economic survey clearly mentions about that as well. Now, this unwanted child is being neglected by not giving proper food, care, or medicines or anything that needs to be provided. This is leading to lot of deaths is what this particular study talks about. So there are two cases. One, when it is about the death of female child, or when they are talking about beti bachao beti padhao, something associated with that. In paper 2, that is when they are actually talking with respect to social issues, I want you to take this particular aspect. As I told you, now the mains time is there. We need to collect as much data as possible with respect to mains answer writing. Second, whenever it comes to essay, this is a trend. I want you to collect trends, whether the question is with respect to women or the question is with respect to children, or if it is about the social indicators. You have to use this particular data, right? So this is very, very important for you. The next important issue is about the scheme, that is Samarth, right? Today, we are all aware that one of the major criticism of the present government is about job creation. And different ministries are coming up with different projects, and they are trying to show that in their departments, all types of measures have been taken to ensure that jobs are created. And one such sector within India which usually provides huge jobs are the textile sector. If you are aware, in the organized sector, it is one of the largest job provider. And if that is the case, when we are looking at this particular scheme, right, where this scheme aims to provide skill to the youth for gainful and substantial employment in the textile sector, right, covering entire value chain. The meaning of this is right from the production, right, till processing, till export, whatever is required or whatever is related to textile, in each one we will be providing the required technology. But here you should be aware, what UPSC does is consider the following statements with respect to Samarth scheme, and then they will tell you that this is there in the entire thing. But can you see here the term excluding spinning and weaving? So the meaning of this is UPSC will tell you that Samarth scheme is to skill the youth for gainful and sustainable employment in the textile sector, covering the entire value chain of textiles. And if they put full stop here, then the statement is wrong. Why? Because it excludes spinning and weaving. This is where students are getting confused. Now, how do you differentiate with others? You have to make notes. Many people ask me, sir, what is the notes that we have to make in the exam? Or from the newspapers, what are the points that we need to pick? So for that, my answer is, please ensure that you are writing this statement and underlining this. And when you see the statement in the exam, immediately you can observe that UPSC would have done mistake in this particular thing. Remember, excluding, only, these are the things which UPSC tried to manipulate. They know that students would have read it, but the focus with which they would have read will be minimum. So the students who are aware of this statement will be the one who will be able to crack. The scheme is intended to provide demand-driven, placement-oriented, national skills qualification framework, compliant skilling programs to incentivize and supplement the efforts of the industry in creating jobs. That is, they will try to give certain certificates to these people who have got the skills so that it is easy for them to get placed. The scheme targets to train 10 lakh persons. Right, 9 lakh in organized and 1 lakh in traditional sector over a period of 3 years. So each one is important. Nowadays UPSC is doing mistake in this. This 10 lakh, they may make it 1 lakh or they may make it 1 crore. So you should be prepared with that. The next important thing that we have to see is with respect to alien versus alien. From last 2 weeks, I am talking about this particular bill where the government has actually said that within Assam, right, we will be having outsiders, especially minorities from Pakistan, Bangladesh, especially Hindus, Sikhs and other religion, but not Muslims. So this is the Citizenship Amendment Bill, and recently United Nations Human Rights Council has also said that the bill that you have brought is bad. There are two things here. What are the Assam people fighting for? Assam people are saying that no one should be given citizenship status. Any religion shouldn't be encouraged. But UNHRC is saying that you are dividing the refugees on the basis of what we call as Hindus or Muslims. So that is wrong, is what United Nations is trying to say. So don't try to see everything in one platform. This year in mains, there is high possibility you may get a question about this particular bill. So here what is there? You have to know that state is saying that these are minorities who may be persecuted, so we are giving the refugee status. Then in Myanmar, why are you not considering the Muslims as the minorities and why are you not giving them here? The central government is trying to avoid people like Rohingyas and others getting citizenship within the country. But the local people are protesting that no one should be given citizenship status, and Indian government has signed Assam Accord, which clearly says that the national citizenship register, which will be usually made by the government, and that will be ultimate to consider for elections or so. And only on the basis of this, most of the insurgent groups had left insurgency. But if India is going for this again, there is a possibility that insurgency can be revived in Assam. Please be careful that migration is one of the major cause for most of the crisis in Northeast. Correct? Mizo is quiet today. If you do anything against the Mizo interest, then there is a possibility that again insurgency can start. Right? That is the second important aspect. Third thing that you have to know is United Nations is interfering because there is an attempt to divide the refugees in the name of religion, and they have asked for the report. All this is important and you have to observe it carefully. So, central government has actually planned to have frozen semen stations of important breeds of cows which are present in India, and one such is being present at Pumia, right, where the 100% contribution is made by the central government. We can call it as central sector scheme. The frozen semen station will be first state-of-the-art semen production center of the country. The center will develop highly modern bull shed, semen processing lab, feed and go down agricultural equipment and other facilities. The other most important thing is Rashtriya Gokul mission. This will be part of it. So what is the main objective? Development and conservation of the indigenous breeds, and because of that you are actually trying to preserve the semen of these breeds. Undertake breed improvement program for indigenous cattle breeds so as to improve the genetic makeup and increase the stock. Enhance milk production and productivity. Upgrade nondescript cattle using elite indigenous breeds like Gir, Sahiwal, Rati, Dioni, Tarparkar, Red Sindhi, and distribute disease-free high genetic merit bulls for natural service. Right guys? Then you have implementation. The next most important aspect is implementation. Rashtriya Gokul mission will be implemented through the state implementing agency, right, where state Gau Seva Ayogs will be given the mandate to sponsor proposals to the SIAs and monitor implementation of the sponsored proposals. So all these are important. I'll just talk about the Gokul Gram. See guys, these are all factual information. There is nothing much to explain, but I'm trying to read out the points which you have to recollect. Whenever they ask you anything associated with this, high possibility these points will come. At that time, you may not be reading it cautiously. That's why I'm trying to read it now so that you can underline those points and revise it during the exam. I can just skip these things and tell you that this is there in the magazine, you read, but you also will not be interested to read. But when I'm reading, at least you will try to make underline of these points. Gokul Grams will be established in the native breeding tracts and near metropolitan cities for housing the urban cattle. These are the two important things about it. Gokul Gram will act as centers for development of indigenous breeds and a dependable source for supply of high genetic breeding stock to the farmers in the breeding tract. The Gokul Gram will be self-sustaining and will generate economic resources from sale of A2 milk, organic manure, vermicomposting, urine distillates, production of electricity from biogas for in-house consumption and sale of animal products. The Gokul Gram will also function as the state-of-the-art in-situ training center for farmers, breeders and maitris. The Gokul Gram will maintain milch and unproductive animals in the ratio of 60:40 and will have the capacity to maintain about 1000 animals. Gokul Gram will also be set up near metropolitan cities for managing urban cattle, right? Metropolitan Gokul Gram will focus on genetic upgradation of the urban cattle. Fine guys. So let's talk about the Swachh rankings, right? You know, every year it is out. Indore actually gets the cleanest city tag. Just try to remember, they may ask you with respect to Swachh Survekshan 2018, which city is given the cleanest city tag? That is Indore, right? And then when they talk about the performance of various cities, like, you know, statements like this may also be given nowadays. Just see what has been given here. Jharkhand has been adjudged as the best performing state, followed by Maharashtra and Chhattisgarh. So the next issue that we need to see is actually with respect to pilgrimage to Nepal, right? Where Indian Prime Minister visit to Nepal has to be seen. Indian Prime Minister visit is aimed at, like, you know, improving the relationship once again. During the visit, a bus service as part of Ramayana circuit, I told you last week, right? Prime Minister of India and Nepal have laid foundation for Aruna 3 Hydel project. See guys, as I told you, international relations, I have launched, like, you know, a website where www.laex.in/testprep, you have international relation course. Those who have attended my India-Nepal class will understand the relevance of all these points. The only thing you have to add in your notes is this point. That is, Prime Minister of India and Nepal have laid foundation for Aruna 3 hydel project. From last week you have to add this. So as I have told you, half a page you have to leave for every topic. So from current affairs, if you keep adding these points, that should be more than enough. So some commitments which India has not yet addressed is the railways, air links, right? Pancheshwar Development Authority, this is another dam. Concluding on an MOU for Nepal Police Academy, that is, India will be training the Nepalis. $2 billion aid and credit to Nepal Buddhist circuit. Now you have the Ramayana circuit. We have also promised about the Buddhist circuit, and they have not been fulfilled. Some controversial issues which after 1 or 1.5 months doesn't have any relevance, but if it has occurred at that particular time, we would have given in the magazine, but I'm not going to spend much time on those type of issues. Let us see the issues which are important from the exam point of view. Green skill development program will go a long way in reaping the demographic dividend of the country. Green skill development program to cover nearly 5 lakh people by 2021 is what we need to understand. See guys, let's see some of the points here. Green skill development program is a recent initiative under Invest scheme for skilling the youth of the country. I told you skill development they will definitely ask you, but they may specifically ask about particular thing, right? And this is of the environment and forest region by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Every ministry has its own. Now this particular one is with respect to this particular ministry, right? Green skill development. Now the green skill development program endeavors to develop green skilled workers having technical knowledge and commitment to sustainable development. Here, intended nationally determined contribution, sustainable development goals, NBT, all this comes into picture. Green skills are those skills required to adopt processes, services and products to climate change and the environmental rules and necessities related to it. Right? Green skills is what is the meaning of green skills? Are those skills required to adapt processes, services and products to climate change and the environmental rules and necessities related to it. Right? Please understand this. This should be your answer. That is, we are going to train the people so that they are in a position to adapt to technologies or make technologies which will ensure that there is minimum damage to the environment. They embrace the information, abilities, values and attitudes required to live and develop and support a sustainable and resource efficient society. That is, they try to create awareness in the society about the climate change and how to ensure that people are going to be adapted to these particular environments. India is the second most populous country in the world and is bestowed with a large working population, and these working population should also ensure that they are having very good sense about the environment and they are not creating any harm to the environment. To create awareness among them through the offices and all, this should be used. Even though India has an advantage of reaping this demographic dividend, but high dropout rates from the school coupled with poor vocational skills will not help in utilizing the demographic dividend. So we are trying to provide skills, and thus area specific skills which are provided to these people will empower people to work in different fields. Just imagine every department is going to give you common set of skills, then what is going to happen? That particular jobs will be exhausted. Then what is the case? So every ministry, when it provides skills specific to that particular thing, so that n number of people will be benefited and they will get job opportunities in different areas as well. Green skilling is crucial for making a transition from energy and emissions intensive economy to cleaner and greener production and service patterns. Right guys? So all these points are important. Let's take up the next issue, that is the policy of the government which is aimed to increase the production of the wind and solar. That is, we need to combine wind and solar energy. India has set an ambitious target of achieving 175 gigawatts of installed capacity from renewable energy sources, including 100 gigawatts from the solar and 60 gigawatts from wind by the year 2022. Is this fine? So this is first important thing. Various policy initiatives have been taken to achieve this target, right? And let us see what are the objectives and goals of the policy. The main objective of the policy is to provide a framework for the promotion of large grid connected wind solar PV system. So what is the meaning of this? The meaning of this is we are planning to go for grid connected wind and solar system. Now wind and solar system are not connected to the grid. So whatever is being produced there is used locally. But once it is connected to the grid, you can increase the production and sell it to other remote areas and increase the cost of it as well, right? For optimal and efficient utilization of transmission infrastructure and land, reducing the variability in renewable power generation and thus achieving better grid stability. The goal of the policy is to reach wind solar hybrid capacity of 10 gigawatts by 2022. In some areas wind energy is good and in some areas solar energy is good. Now rather than having wind connected to the grid and solar connected to the grid, let's have both and connected to the grid is what these people are talking about. So the next important issue is about the Strategic Petroleum Reserve Program. Here I want you to know that we have something like Strategic Uranium Reserve and all. The meaning of this is whenever there is a threat that India may not get uranium resources from the other countries because India doesn't have enough uranium reserves. So what India does? India will actually create a structure and a place in such a way that all the uranium from across the world, whenever we import more than that is required and we try to store it there. And what we will do whenever there is emergency and if other countries are not providing it to us, we will try to take it from this particular place. Similarly, India has something known as Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and this it has signed with Abu Dhabi. Right? So what it does, from Abu Dhabi, oil will come and it will be stored in India. Okay. And from here, if they want, they will sell it to other countries. And if India requires, India can purchase everything at the market price itself. But priority will be always given to India. That is, they should first sell it to India. And just imagine there is a scenario where like in the entire West Asia, because of ISIS or some crisis, there is no supply of petrol for a significant period. Let me take the case of the Gulf War during 1989-1990. During that time what happened? There was limited supply of oil. And the oil that was present in India was not sufficient beyond a particular time. So if anything of that sort happens, India will have this petroleum reserve with it and India can consume this completely. India will be paying, but from India it will not be selling to anyone. So India, what it can do, it can give it to countries like Mauritius or like Seychelles, some other country which it likes. So the first important thing that you need to understand with respect to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is that the UAE based company will be setting up this particular reserve where the entire cost will be by them and they will be keeping fuel in India. And they are also scared. Why are they keeping in India? That can be a question. Say tomorrow there are some sanctions on UAE and their main economy is based on exports of oil. And if there is blockade on them, they are not in a position to export oil and natural gas to any country. At that time, their economy will be affected. But if they have oil reserves in India, now this oil reserves can be exported to different countries. At that time, what is going to happen? They will still get their money. So this is what right, India has achieved. We are not only having this storage facility at Mangalore, we are also planning to have at different places. One is in Udupi, right, I'll show you the place, right. You have it in Chandikol, Jaipur, right, Odisha, Bikaner in Rajasthan. Udupi is also there, where they are planning to have some oil. The next important issue is about the climate change or the air pollution. We can talk it from environment and ecology point of view as well. The fuels which are actually used in the spacecraft today is highly carcinogenic, and whenever they emit, right, they may have significant impact in the entire atmosphere or even in the exosphere. So ISRO is making a propellant which will be, like, very much safer compared to the earlier versions. The new propellant is a, like, blend based on hydroxyl ammonium nitrate. So this is a very important topic. The new HAN based monopropellant is already being tested. A monopropellant is a chemical propulsion fuel which does not require a separate oxidizer. It is used extensively in satellite thrusters for orbital correction and orientation control. So again, this is very, very important for you. If you can see this, that's enough. Then the next important thing is about a licensing policy, right, where open acreage licensing policy. Earlier you had hydrocarbon exploration and licensing policy. Now you have open acreage licensing policy. What is the meaning of this? Earlier what happened? Government used to identify that, like, in this particular block, let me take this as an area. In this particular block, you have oil and natural gas. And then they used to ask the companies if they are interested in actually exploring it. Now what happens, the companies know that, like, let me take till here, the reserve is usually more, but here only in traces the reserves are present. So what the companies used to feel that, why am I paying to the additional areas as well? This is beneficial for me, but this is not beneficial. But under HELP it was compulsory that if government says that this area you have to purchase, they have to purchase, and they used to go. But under the new program, what the government is actually saying is, if I have a particular area, and in this particular area, if, like, I find only oil rich in this particular region, then I can definitely give only this particular region. Earlier government used to decide the area. Now the private companies, if they try to search and say that from our research we find that this area is available and we want to purchase this, then this will be allowed for bidding. Like they say that 2 times in a year we can allow, and even if you want more than 2 times, we are willing. So UPSC may ask you, consider the differences between, like, open acreage licensing policy and NELP. So whatever is given is important for you. You see, the other major difference between the new and old policy is that new one doesn't require developers to apply for separate licenses. Earlier what used to happen, every bidding they require separate licenses. Now it's only one. They can obtain a single unified license. As I told you, the new policy also does away with the earlier provision for a profit sharing model with the government. Now you need not share profits with the government, and there won't be delays as well. The new policy hinges on revenue sharing, doing away with this ambiguity. That is right, rather than calling it as profit sharing, now you have revenue sharing. In this, like, this much is the total revenue and you have to give this much revenue to the government. Profit means then you have to show accounts and all, right? So you have to say that this much I have invested and this is the loss, this much we have, like, wasted auditing, all this delays. Now it's revenue sharing, right? If you get 100 crores, 30 crores is mine, irrespective of whether you make profit or not. So this is a very good policy which is accepted by the private companies as well. The next important issue is about the biofuels. As you're all aware that there are number of, like, policies being made on biofuels. And if you see, the present government has also passed a policy on biofuels, where they are actually planning to ensure that the usage of biofuels will be increased. What is the use of this? First, you should try to know how these biofuels are obtained. Now, you have some biofuels obtained directly from the crops. Some are obtained from the municipal solid waste. And you know that if the normal fuels are used, they emit more pollutants. Now, with this, you are trying to reduce all these factors. The first important thing I want you to know is the policy expands the scope of raw material for ethanol production by allowing use of sugarcane juice, sugar containing materials like sugar beet, sweet sorghum, starch containing materials like corn, cassava, damaged food grains like wheat, broken rice, rotten potatoes, unfit for human consumption for ethanol production. All this is important for us. Next, farmers are at risk of not getting appropriate price for their produce during surplus production phase, and whenever these are being diverted to the biofuels, then they will get enough money. Then when we talk about the advanced biofuels, the policy indicates a viability gap funding scheme for 2G ethanol biorefineries of rupees 5,000 crore in 6 years. That is, we are trying to ensure that you have second stage ethanol production, right? So that is also important for you. Then expected benefits: reduce import dependency, because when you go for biofuels blending as well, right, if you are getting 100% oil only which has to be used, now even if you go for 90% should be imported and 10% is biofuel, then also it's a very good thing. Second important thing, cleaner environment, because it is believed that these will reduce the carbon dioxide emissions. Health benefits: as you are aware, whenever you are going for the gases and other cooking oil and all, even that will have less impact. Municipal solid waste management in the urban areas is one of the major problem, and if this can be diverted for what we call as solid waste management or production of biofuels, that would be very, very beneficial. Infrastructural investment in rural areas. Now this would ensure that there is additional employment generation in the rural areas with respect to biofuels, and as farmers will get additional income, that will aim in doubling the farmers' income as well. See guys, all this I have repeatedly spoken in multiple magazines. That's why I'm spending less time on this. You might have heard of INS Tarini crew, like all women crew which have circumnavigated the world. They are two written. The expedition titled Navika, Sagar, Parikrama. If they ask about that, you should be aware you are talking about this. It has showcased Nari Shakti on the world platform. Again, another important area. During her 254-day long voyage, right, the vessel has covered 22,000 nautical miles, visiting 5 countries: Australia, New Zealand, Falkland Islands, South Africa and Mauritius. Another important area that we need to see. So intellectual property mascot, IP Nani. Right here you actually see, right, the grandson and the grandmother both are trying to ensure, this is something like we are trying to promote in the common man how to use this whatever technology they know and how to get IP, right, to create awareness. We are using this, right? This is used as a mascot. They may ask you about this mascot as well. That's why we are giving information about it. So please try to see IP Nani. What is it? It's a mascot for the intellectual property rights. And then when we talk about the organization, World Intellectual Properties Organization, many people ask me what are the international organizations that we should try to see. Every area has one or the other organization, and you should have facts with respect to that. So it is one of the 17 specialized organizations with respect to United Nations. It was created in 1967 to encourage creative activity to promote the protection of intellectual property throughout the world. It has currently 188 member states, administers 26 international treaties, and is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. right? Non-members are the states of Marshall Islands, Federated States of Micronesia, Nauru, Palau, Solomon Islands, South Sudan, Timor-Leste, Palestine has observer states. Very, very important. They may ask you these type. India is a member and party to several treaties associated with this. And then at last, the most important thing that we need to see is about the groundwater pollution, that is death by slow poisoning. Arsenic, you are aware, is one of the major groundwater pollutant, and it has certain permissible limits. Earlier, our permissible limits were different with the World Health Organization, but today ours is similar to what we see with respect to the WHOs. So my point here that I want to talk to you people is, please ensure guys, you are talking about the arsenic in the groundwater. Groundwater has become a major issue in the country, especially the pollutants. And like this is a geogenic contaminant, that is mainly through the natural process, and because of this, there is no measures that you can avoid. So if it is man-made, then you can go for some things, but this is also natural. Right? The only alternative is identify the groundwater which is not contaminant, and you have to give those groundwater to the people rather than making them consume these. Right? These are some of the basic problems with respect to groundwater. From environment and ecology point of view, read about arsenic. Then from infrastructure point of view, you know that the government is planning to connect Srinagar, right, Kargil and Leh. That is, earlier we connected Jammu to Srinagar, now from Srinagar to Ladakh through the Zojiila tunnel. A very, very important thing. You should know about the Zojiila pass, right? And then the tunnel. So this is a 2-lane bidirectional tunnel, which is an extension of NH1A connecting Srinagar with this. High possibility UPSC may ask you about the tunnel. So guys, after seeing all this, I want you to answer the ethical questions, right? And then again, as the mains is starting, many people keep asking us, sir, we want to write questions. Can you please evaluate and send it to us? Please log on to our website again. We have multiple courses like NCRTs and all. You can watch those basic concepts. If not, if you want to focus from the answer writing point of view as well, we have magazine, answer writing series. You can read that as well. Fine guys, thank you, thanks for watching.